I'm Anna Bernard with the Kansas City Public Library. The Heartland Book Festival is a partnership with the Kansas City Public Library, Missouri Humanities, and the Missouri Center for the Book. The festival was created to draw the region together through the power of story. Thanks so much for joining us today. We'd also like to thank all of our generous donors, which you can see in some of our rotating slides in between the programs. This event would not be possible without them. A few housekeeping notes. Please take a moment to silence your phone during the program. Food and drinks are available inside the Central Library, courtesy of The Nook, the library's new cafe, a partnership with Prospect KC. There are also great options within walking distance of the library. The Nook's table is right over there. Feel free to ask any festival volunteer wearing a festival t-shirt if you have any questions throughout the day. And if you parked in the Central Library garage, don't forget to validate your parking ticket for free parking. And now to the main event. I want to ask everyone, do you know where you were on September 24th, 2023? If you're like me, you are tuned into the Kansas City Chiefs and Chicago Bears game, excited for some regular Sunday football, when suddenly the world's biggest pop star is on the screen wearing team gear. If you're also like me, the next thing you did was go to the Instagram account at Taylor Swift Styled. Within a few hours, the account had the details on every piece of clothing and accessory Taylor was wearing, and by the next day, they revealed that the only place to get the Chiefs' new era windbreaker Taylor was wearing while eating chicken with seemingly ranch was at the Arrowhead Stadium Pro Shop. Those jackets were sold out by the end of the day. For the rest of the football season, this account was the go-to place for information on what Taylor was wearing at every game, and I'm so pleased to welcome the reporter behind the account, Sarah Chapelle, who is on tour for her debut book, Taylor Swift Style, Fashion Through the Eras. Taylor Swift Style expands on her popular blog of the same name to provide a comprehensive and nuanced look, not just at Taylor's game day style, but at Taylor's musical and fashion evolution spanning the last 2 decades. Sarah will be chatting with Kansas City's own Melody Rowell. Melody has worked for NPR's 1A, National Geographic, and KCUR 89.3 Central Standard. She currently produces the Culture Study podcast hosted by Anne Helen Peterson, which interviewed Sarah for an episode that aired earlier this year. Please welcome to the stage, Sarah.
Excuse me? What? Oh my goodness gracious. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for the very, very kind intro. And thank you all, of course, so much for choosing to spend your Saturday at this wonderful library hearing me speak. It means so much. So I wanted to get things started off with, Anna gave me such a wonderful intro, but I thought, we'll do another one. So I wanted to start off with a little bit of intro about me. So my name is Sarah Chapelle, and my icebreaker talent at parties is I can tell when a photo of Taylor Swift was taken and what she's wearing in that photo. Now here's the thing, is that Taylor is so good at dressing to an aesthetic, dressing to an era, dividing her life up into these distinctive aesthetics of her life. And because you've all chosen to be here, I have to assume that you also share this talent. So I wanted to start off with a little bit of an audience participation game. Now, earlier this week, I was in Seattle and I was in Santa Cruz and I gave this presentation, and they got every question right. And it would be really embarrassing if the West Coast did better than you guys. So, not to set the bar very, very high, the game is very hard. So, here we go. This is a photo of Taylor Swift in a bob with a little crop top and matching set by Jessica Jones. Now, I'm gonna ask you, what era is this? And I would love very much if you would all respond simultaneously with the same unanimous answer, because no one's gonna get it wrong. What era is this? 1989. Wow, very good, very good, very good. Okay, off to a great start. Okay, second one. Okay. This is Taylor Swift wearing bangs. She's got a vintage red dress on with red lipstick and some cute little vintage character heels. Now, what era is this? She was the loudest. Sorry to all of you. Okay, last one. The hardest one. Fingers crossed. Okay. This is a photo of Taylor Swift performing on Saturday Night Live wearing a Gucci sweatshirt with a snake on it. Now, buckle up. What era is this? Oh my God, thank God. Wow, I'm so happy that you guys got that right. It would have been really embarrassing otherwise. So by way of an introduction, I started listening to Taylor's music when I was 13 years old. So not to date myself, but that means I've listened to her discography now for over half my life. It all started, as it tends to do, when I was illegally downloading music on LimeWire in the early 2000s, as any self-respecting teenager in the early aughts would do. I was scrolling through the country music section, and I came across a song that I thought, that's a weird title. It struck me as something that was connective, emotional, sentimental, and warm, and the song was called Our Song. Yeah. And I downloaded that song and the rest of her debut album, and the rest, as they say, is history. Now, being a young girl was hard enough. Every single day felt like being sucked through a straw. The compression, the pressure, feeling stuck but like you're still moving, wanting so badly to conform to an unrealistic ideal, but feeling like all you'll ever be is the swollen gut of a snake, vulnerable or just plain eaten alive. My teenage years were a paradox of being too much, and yet also not enough. Too loud, too smart, not pretty enough, not good enough. But I had a secret weapon, a garden gate escape, a quiet haven that I could go to when I needed to feel a little less alone and a little more understood. I found it in Taylor's music. Her words and her art opened up a wormhole for me to be sucked in by. It was like being in a cave, a quiet place where I could say my feelings aloud and hear them spoken back to me in the voice of a friend. It was a safe space I could exist in, a temporary respite where I could be reminded of my life without being harmed by its reality. I often describe listening to Taylor's music as the longest relationship I've ever had. My husband's not here, so this is between us. Now, if you'll recall that aforementioned talent I had of being able to discern when a photo was taken, let us observe how aggressively early 2000s this photo is. Exhibit A, the corded phone on the wall. Exhibit B, the long sleeve t-shirt layered underneath a short sleeve t-shirt. Exhibit C, the unironic usage of peace sign next to face. Yeah. As a survivor of the gifted children programming of the late 90s, you too, huh? Cool. And also as a Scorpio, thank you. I come with a unique blend of latent inadequacy and a desire to avoid being perceived. So doing, this is as an expert in a highly niche field and laying my heart and my personal experience on the line does not come naturally to me. Even calling myself an expert is a little bit uncomfortable. It's so against this quiet, placid archetype of what femininity was sold to me as. But if 13 years of pioneering an editorial genre, fostering a community that borders 500,000, and writing a whole darn book about one specific thing does not make me an expert, I suppose, what does? Oh, thanks. Yet even still, I find myself shirking this label, like it's an uncomfortable or unfamiliar thing to wear. So I'll do my best to proudly stand here today in front of you and call myself exactly that. For you, Kansas City, I'm gonna try. Now, growing up, I loved to tell stories. I filled childhood journals with daydreams and poems that morphed into stories and essays. My imagination was fueled by an early love of reading, with many thanks to libraries just like this one. On every morning drive to school or family vacation taken by car, I would sit third row center of my mom's Plymouth Voyager, which is a van, and as classically introverted as possible, sit as far away from another human being in order to read. Now, my earliest years were made magical by big friendly giants, spiders named Charlotte, and tornadoes that dropped you in a land marked by a twisting yellow brick road. In school, during get to know you exercises, in the blank space, that's the only one, I swear, left when asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would write, author. Now, as I grew older, I aged out of that dream and decided I should pursue something more secure. The prism of experience tells you that at a certain point, you need to let go of your childhood dreams and let go of your childish ways. It would serve me better if I could grow up and focus on something that was realistic, something dependable. So I did the only logical thing I could do. I pursued a degree in journalism to become a reporter. Now, I then proceeded to spend 4 years getting told in lecture hall after lecture hall by journalists who I respected and admired that the industry was dying a slow death every day, and you're on your own, kid, that's only the second one, to try and get a newspaper job when you graduate. Cool. During those 4 years, though, I learned to take my love of storytelling and plant it in reality. How to expose truths, how to cover events with fairness, how to draw a person in words. After graduating, I did secure a job as a newspaper reporter. But little did anyone know that in the backs of those very same classrooms, I had started a little blog that would really become something, not just the idea of something. That blog was Taylor Swift Style. I started Taylor Swift Style on October 13, 2011, because graphic design is my passion. That's not true, but I did start it unwittingly on October 13, a day that feels incredibly Swiftian, not only for the 13 of it all, but because it reminds me of one of my favorite Taylor albums and the chokehold that it has on this season. She's falling. I started it because I was a millennial girl armed with a dream, an ancient desktop computer running on dial-up from the aforementioned viruses that I accidentally downloaded when illegally downloading music, and the ancillary nature of Taylor Swift's discography teaching me that specificity breeds community. The more real and authentic something was, the more it would ring true with the people who heard it. I knew that because I had experienced that. So I thought about all the things that I was interested in. Taylor and her lyrics, community and connection, journalism and reporting, red carpets and fashion, blogs, long-form written content, the medium of fashion being used to communicate a message. I used to spend hours on LiveJournal and fan forums, bookmarking my favorite creators and checking their blog posts every day over morning cups of coffee and treating those like they were my daily newspaper. I thought about Taylor and her style and how I connected not only to her music, but also to her as a person. I saw myself and that interest in so many of my friends and fellow fans who admired her and wanted to be like her, even in the smallest of ways. I thought about those bloggers who I admired and wondered if perhaps I could create my own niche within a niche. A space of my own to curate and nurture, just like the ones that I spent my mornings reading. And if the only person who ever ended up enjoying it was me, then at least I would know that it was a passion born from something enthusiastic, genuine and sincere. And that blog became Taylor Swift Style. Now, initially when I started the blog, I was more occupied with the learning curve of how do I translate this object that I am seeing into an actual purchasable item? I was too busy mastering this new research skill to even consider writing captions. When a new photo of Taylor would pop up on my update feeds, I would spend hours on online databases and retail sites trying to figure out the magical combination of words that would lead me to that exact item. I would scour the latest runways. I read tons of fashion history books. I subscribed to every fashion magazine that I could. In the same way that my brain seemed to have an endless memory capacity for Taylor lyrics, so too did that same infinite data bank apply to fashion brands. Eventually, my eyes started to adjust. It was like when I was 10 and my dad walked into the living room for the umpteenth time to see me seated about an inch away from the television screen. That day, he took me to an optometrist and we discovered that I needed glasses. Go figure. But suddenly, I could see. Fashion was the same thing. One day, fashion just snapped into focus. I started discerning patterns in the shape of a heel, a detail in a shirt's hem, or a certain cut in a dress. The house codes of designers started to become clear enough that I could begin spotting a Prada bag, a Christian Louboutin shoe, a Free People dress with near immediacy. Somebody clocked that I'm wearing Reformation today. Who was it? You, yes. Now, like any language, the more you immerse yourself in that world, the more you become fluent. And fashion spoke to me. It communicated messages to me. Now, despite becoming parasocially attached to people through the digital space, I never once thought that that rule might apply to me. I am just a girl. I'm pursuing a passion. It's just a small little hobby. It's nothing of significance. It's nothing of importance. And I realized I fell into the trap that so many young girls like me fall into. Make self small. We put our emotions into a mouse house and we spend a lifetime wondering why we feel caged, suppressed, bottled up. Even right now, I'm wearing a microphone and speaking to all of you today, and it's incredibly difficult to be loud. Informed by my journalistic background, I wanted to write captions that were thorough and based in research. So even still, once the fashion exact research started to become second nature, I continued to abstain from writing those captions because I feared that people wouldn't want to hear from me or my opinions. And it was ultimately taking a page out of Taylor's book because, like anything, all life lessons are in a Taylor Swift song. Being vulnerable, open, and highly specific, and as well the kind response from my community that helped me open up and tap into that original love of storytelling. I wanted to embellish my captions with the kind of affection and intimately specific knowledge that can only come from being so deeply and sincerely entrenched in a fandom as weird and wacky as ours is. I wanted to weave inside jokes and humor and kind wit into my analysis of her fashion. I wanted to write commentary that analyzed Taylor's style in a way that equaled the amount of effort that she put into curating it. Written by someone who cared and who knew the ins and outs of her oeuvre as only a real fan could. In short, I started referring to this ethos as critical kindness. Now, I'd like to think that this level of intention and thoughtfulness and nuance is what set TSS apart. I know that it is, because I wrote the book on it. But we'll circle back to this guy. First, I want to talk about the power of fashion. I believe that regardless of our reach, every day we have an opportunity to leave behind a legacy, a memory, an impression. Now, we can do that by the actions that we take or the words that we say, but I'd like to think that we can leave an impact based on the physical manifestation that we leave on this world. Our fashion is a reflection of ourselves, our interests, and sometimes our values. Fashion can be a culture, a uniform, or an expression of identity. It can mean a multitude of things, but at the end of the day, bar joining a nudist colony, every single one of us has to get up and get dressed. And how you get dressed says something, whether you want it to or not. That's how powerful fashion is. The double-edged sword of fashion is it will always speak for you, even without you opening your mouth. I like to think that Taylor knows that and has intentionally and effectively tailored, that's the fourth or third one, I'm losing, to speak for her on her behalf. Now, for Taylor, her fashion and music work in tandem to communicate a message. As this generation's most prolific songwriter, we're obviously most familiar with her emotional songs about her life. But I'd like to think that her style is the other half of that story. It's the visual half that iconifies every era and makes moments memorable. Now, going back to that game that we played and you did so well on at the start of this presentation, it's not a coincidence that we can now correlate a photo of Taylor to a period of time in her life. As a wise poet once said, "What if I told you none of it was accidental?" For the last 18 years, Taylor has used her fashion as the visual counterpoint to her music. Through her style, she's been able to divide her life into now 11 distinct periods that you can easily plot on a chronological timeline. You can literally see a life unfold if you take a chronological look at her fashion. It says something to the world about how she chooses to present herself, and by extension, a project. Now, in an interview with Vogue in 2016, Taylor once poignantly said, "Going through different phases is one of my favorite things about fashion. I love how it can mark the passage of time. It's similar to my songs in that way. It all helps to identify where I was at in different points in my life." So if the lyrics represent her diary pages, her fashion for the era is its book cover. And while we've always been taught not to judge a book by its cover, it's absolutely a tool that she's used to neatly and effectively market and package her diaries for our consumption. Now, I would hazard a guess that most of us are fans of Taylor's music because of her lyrics. Not just because they're beautifully written, but because they tap into our lives, because we relate to them. Our favorite Taylor songs form a tapestry of our lives, the things that we've experienced and survived. I'm sure that I could give you a timeline of my favorite Taylor songs that I've related to in my life, and you could fill in the blanks with all the things that have ever happened to me. As someone who has built their brand on relatability, a big part of that is dressing in a way and with brands that fans will find accessible and that they can bring into their own lives. Taylor's music creates an emotional bridge that fans can understand and feel seen by. Her style is the physical, visual manifestation of that bridge. It's a way of displaying fandom without wearing official merchandise, as seen by her wearing something from the Lavender Haze music video, as seen by her in a recent Candid on the streets of New York. Now, a signature of Taylor's style is that it's primarily based on classic, feminine, girly pieces. Items that are easy to replicate because they're often staples that you might have in your closet, or because they're brands that fans themselves can purchase and might be able to afford. Like a plaid skirt and loafers, a cute coordinating set, or a cozy knit and jeans. I think fashion represents the physical proof of a bond. Music is the connective tissue in a fandom that you can hear and that you can feel, but fashion is what you can see. Now, as someone who has made the inner workings of her life a profitable business, a side effect of Taylor's relatable fashion is that it has also become its own business endeavor. Last year, I spoke to the Wall Street Journal about the business impact of Taylor's fashion. Lane Florsheim spoke to the founders of many of the brands that I had reported on my blog. And they would talk about the traffic and sales spikes that would occur in the immediate aftermath when I would post. Items would sell out within hours, and wait lists would form by the thousands. Some brands reported a sales increase of nearly 10,000%. Nobody has the power that Taylor Swift does, said Beckett Fogg, CEO and founder of the brand Area. You may know them as the brand from the very first set of Jover Candids that we got. Now, according to Beckett, their Rebirth jeans, which I posted about on Taylor Swift Style, sold out almost immediately. One thing about Taylor is that she has never opted to become the official face of a fashion house. While she's had fleeting collaborations with designers like Stella McCartney, she's never signed a contract to become an official ambassador for a fashion brand, unlike many celebrities who do so in order to expand their revenue streams. Taylor, much in the way she's approached her entire career, has forged her own path. In April 2024, Forbes announced that Taylor had entered billionaire status based on the value of her musical catalog and revenue from streaming alone. Taylor knows what she puts on her body makes her the equivalent of a walking billboard, and she has tactfully and strategically used that throughout her career with the primary focus of using it to create a cohesive and recognizable visual brand, not as a literal business move. Now, as I was preparing this deck for you, Kansas City, I considered what I wanted to use as an isolated case study in the power of Taylor's fashion. And obviously, only one thing came to mind. Yeah. I love using Taylor's Chiefs fashion as an opportunity to dive into her style strategy. Dressing for her rookie season as a sports spectator necessitated developing an entirely new dialect of her style. When we have seen her in gigantic football stadiums, it is typically in this context. Not in this context. But in her rookie season, Taylor attended 13 Chiefs games, because of course she did. Beneficially for us and for her, the circumstances created constants and constraints that her style needed to shift to in order to function. In this case, a constant would be her setting, like a football stadium. And a constraint might be adhering to Chiefs colors. As a result, Taylor's outfits were mapped out strategically in such a way that they can be satisfyingly placed into a slideshow graphic to cover her appearances. You can see how her outfits are anchored by common colors, silhouettes, styles, and concepts. She created a uniform of her own that was markedly different, but still maintained an essence of her existing style that fans would recognize. Taylor's game day strategy expanded on the thoughtful and intentional way that she dresses, full of carefully thought out brand selects that continued the approachable, imitable, feminine style that she's known for. We'll do a deep dive into some of her game day's unifying themes. Women-owned or locally owned brands. Taylor very often decided to put brands that were either local to Kansas City or founded by women into her outfits. I loved that in doing so, she used her power of celebrity to share the spotlight and direct it towards companies that she believed in and that would support and uplift women in business. In the top left, we obviously see that Wear by EA bomber jacket. To its immediate right, the Christian Juszczyk jacket. Off from that, we see a Gigi Hadid sweater, and on it goes. Taylor would also opt for vintage. Now, that to me was a way of her trying to show team spirit without literally buying into the NFL. Now, this may seem like small potatoes when you consider her sweet presence last season lifted female viewership for the NFL to near gender parity for the first time, tripled Chiefs merchandising sales before she even entered Arrowhead Stadium on that fateful day last September, according to USA Today, and surged north of $330 million in equivalent advertising and brand value to the NFL and Chiefs, according to Apex Marketing Group analysis as reported to NPR. But in a situation without a microphone and a guitar, what other primary method of communication does Taylor have at her disposal? Her fashion. Opting for something already made and giving it a new life as a more sustainable option for expressing her support instead of NFL-sanctioned merch feels significant and intentional to me. Shout out to West Side Story for for the vintage sweatshirt that Taylor wears off there. Lastly, a key takeaway of Taylor's brand has been her hopeless romanticism. Now, to me, her choosing sentimental accessories to style with her outfits underlined her primary reason for being there. And much like her approach to her new relationship, it was a way of openly wearing her romance on her sleeve by incorporating it into the details of her outfit. We see lots of 87s, we see some TNT, and we also see in this specific photo a Sarah exact, because I owned that ring first. Cute. Now, I wanted to finish this presentation with the reason why I'm here, and really why all of you are here, which I'm so honored by and grateful for, and not to mention very shocked at. There are some 300 of you here today, which is about 290 more people than I thought would be here. But speaking to a room in Kansas City is not something I had on my bucket list, but perhaps it should have been, because this has really been really wonderful. I've never stepped foot into an airport and received so many immediate, "Welcome to Kansas City, I hope you have a great time." The Midwest nice, it precedes you, yeah. I want to thank the organizers of the Heartland Book Festival for inviting me to be a small part of their incredible event. More importantly, I want to thank them for their barbecue recommendations. I went to Joe's last night, it was great. But back to the thing that you and I and we are here for. I usually say that this is the culmination of 13 years of work, of figuring out Photoshop and making an account on Tumblr and learning to trust myself and a community of caring, thoughtful, and insightful people. But really, it's the physical manifestation of a dream that a little girl in Canada once had but talked herself out of because she thought it would never happen. It was too big, it was too unrealistic, it was too audacious, and yet, despite all of those things, it's real. I wrote a book. Now, this topic, the convergence of style and its deeply held meanings, particularly through the lens of an artist that I care deeply about, felt important for me to explore, not just as a fan, but as a young woman. So much of growing up and figuring things out manifests in how we present ourselves to the world, most often through our clothes. Our clothes send messages about who we are or want to be, and traditionally feminine-coded interests like shopping and fashion were marketed to young girls like me as foundational, gendered interests, only to then subsequently be weaponized to make everything that I liked feel shallow and vapid. I wanted to write a book that embraced fashion for how we can use it as a beautiful method of exploration, expression, and empowerment. In the same way that Taylor forced people to take the perspective of a teenage girl seriously, I wanted to write a book that treated a subject often looked down upon with equal earnestness. Sniffle break, sorry. I also wanted to write a book that was a reciprocal love letter, I'm gonna make it, to Taylor and the love letters that her discography has symbolized for me. Being 3 years younger than her, Taylor's album cycles have timed out to what I was experiencing at that moment. At every turn, I have benefited from growing up in her wake. Now, I've often called it the definitive Swiftie style book, and I wrote it, and I'm biased, but Taylor's style explains the why behind the outfits, the Easter eggs and deeper meanings of one of the most savvy pop stars of the modern age. As you now know, I've been a fan of Taylor since 2006 and documenting her fashion since 2011. For the last 13 years, I've provided not only the exact details of her clothes, from designers to prices, but I've also elected to go deeper, to provide context and commentary that explores the intention behind every outfit. This book is built off of a life led by love of storytelling, a life that's been saved over and over again by one storyteller's stories in particular. I feel uniquely qualified to be an expert source on her style evolution as a journalist and recorder of her fashion history, but also as a real true fan. Now, this book features over 200 photos and tons of commentary spanning looks from the nearly 2 decades of Taylor's career. Final finish. Anna, get ready. Cut that out. You saw that now. Kansas City, you're making me feel like I'm a man. This book was mine, but I hope that it can start a new era as yours, starting now. And that's it. Hi. Oh, what era are you in? Well, I'm in my Chiefs era, obviously.
Hi, everybody. Like Anna said, I'm Melody Rowell. I'm a podcast producer, which is how I met Sarah. When you produce a podcast, you get a book whoever you want, and so I slid into her DMs. So we're going to chat for a few minutes, then we're going to take some audience questions. So I think there's a way to text those questions, and then I will receive them. So first things first, I made you some friendship bracelets.
Oh my God, thank you so much. This is very nice.
And I made them while watching the Royals, so there's like extra Kansas
There's
City
extra
spirit.
juice in it. Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Yes. What'd you say? Oh, yeah. There's the number.
Oh, this one says green. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, thank you so much for that really meaningful presentation. It's so fun to get to watch somebody else's dreams come true. So, you have been deep in the daily work for 13 years of what is she wearing, where is it from, how quickly can I post it, but putting it all together in the book, was there anything that jumped out at you when you were taking that 10,000 foot view that you didn't really notice in the day-to-day?
Yeah, there were so many moments in looking back through the archives of the blog where I would start to pick out and realize certain patterns. One of my favorites in particular is that Taylor has been named Billboard's Woman of the Year 3 times. And twice technically as Woman of the Year and once as Artist of the Decade. And each of those 3 times she wore Oscar de la Renta to each of those events. And it was fascinating to look at these photos, in a slideshow and to see how she used the exact same designer to underpin, this foundational girly feminine style of hers, which Oscar de la Renta is very known for. But you'll see how she adapted it to support the era that she was in at that time. It's really fascinating to look at, and it's later on in the book, I think, closer to the epilogue. Yeah.
So even though there's a look specific to every era, there is still like an overarching aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the key part of her fashion, is that even though she adapts it to, fit the aesthetic of the era, there's always something core and signature and foundational to her style that makes her recognizably Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you told us about how you don't fail to plan because you're not going to plan to fail. That was my one bad one.
Fail to plan.
Yeah, fail to plan.
Yeah.
That you study fashion houses, you study runways. That's how you can identify clothes just by looking at them. But I want to hear more about kind of the minutia of the process. So I'm going to give you an example, and I want you to just walk us through like how you tackled this. So
Sure.
the I Can Do It With a Broken Heart music video is all footage that's backstage, behind the scenes of rehearsing for the Eras tour. And I went on your Instagram feed and I counted 18 posts and probably more to come for that music video. So it was just a lot. Like, that's a lot of outfits. So what was your process for seeing that video, being like, oh God, I have to figure all this out, and then talk us through scene to posting?
Sure. There's like a dichotomy when new Taylor content comes out, wherein there's like a half of me that is obviously excited as a fan, and it's like, oh, new content, oh my God. And then there's, the other half of me that's filled with dread of, oh God, I have a job to do. So these two, inside every woman is two beasts, lions, wolves, yes, thank you. So, after like the initial, oh yay, it's, oh God. And so, thankfully in that particular instance, a lot of it was, athleisure wear, athletic wear, sponsored, not sponsored by PopFlex. So that made a lot of things like very easy to identify. There were certain pieces that she'd worn previously, so that was helpful, and is such a key style pillar of Taylor's repetition. We love a sustainable, recycling queen. So a lot of it was recognizable to me, and other items were just brands that she's previously worn that I was familiar with and could just say like, oh, cool, okay, Form bra. Posture's horrible, great. Yeah, so it's really just like a gerbil in my brain, constantly worrying through the Rolodex of past information and pulling out files, and then hurriedly making, I look like a shrimp, like fully spine curvature over a laptop to make posts, and then off we go.
Okay, so
a very unglamorous process, yeah.
But a glamorous result.
Precisely, yeah.
Is there anything in the past 13 years, like is there a great white whale of something you haven't been able to identify that's just like haunting you?
Oh, for sure. There's a recent particular necklace that many people are very curious about that I suspect is some kind of vintage that I just haven't found. It's not her Cartier, comfort necklace that's like $27,000 that she bought last year. Not that security blanket, a different one, but very similar, but I have not found that.
Okay, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So someday it appears.
Someday it will, a magical, designer necklace will appear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I recognize that shirt too.
I appreciate everybody's commitment to the theme.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So in the prologue of your book, you write that your own fashion choices growing up were, quote, clothes were a way to cover my insecurities like armor and to project how I wanted to show up for other people and also for myself. And I think we all tend to look at Taylor's outfits of like, where are the Easter eggs? What is she telling us? But what have you seen in the evolution of how Taylor is showing up for herself? Like what do you see as her internal journey in her fashion?
Yeah, it's interesting. And I've said before that I think that there are so many foundational pillars to Taylor's style where you'll see like a knit sweater and a pleated plaid miniskirt pop up as a formula combo over the years. And to me, like the colors may change and the exact like length of hemline may change, the accessories may change. She might pair it with, combat boots in a certain era. She might pair it with heeled Oxfords in another era. She might pair it, with loafers in yet another era. But the formula at its core feels true to Taylor. And so I think that that's a core thing about not only her music, but also her fashion, which is that there's this sense of familiarity and recognizability where you can like push through the visuals to see, oh, that's Tay. That's her. And you see that in her and you see that in her music. And I think that that's what fans resonate with, is that ringing truth of authenticity that still remains throughout the years.
Do you think that's an intentional choice?
I think it's both intentional and convenient because Taylor's entire life is built upon this scaffolding of intentionally, intelligently marketed authenticity. Taylor is this unique blend of like savvy businesswoman and also sincere, genuine, emotional feeling human being with preferences and stories and experiences, and she makes both of those things come together in her art. So it's both. It's smart and it's also just true to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to see from her in the future?
I mean, as I said in my presentation, I feel like we won't see, an official ambassador role for her, but I think that she would be an amazing, I can picture it in my head of a Ralph Lauren campaign. Just just like the Americana and the saddlebags and the brown cognac leather, and just, I can see it very clearly in my head, and I think that she would fit it perfectly.
Yeah. So you want to see an official brand campaign?
I think that would be so fun, but
Yeah.
I don't have high hopes for it.
Yeah, she doesn't really need the money.
No,
So.
she's not hurting exactly for
Right.
it. Yeah.
So I had this question written down, and then I see it showing up in the audience questions. So what is going on with the current plaid moment?
Yeah, I think that's a really serious question, and I'm ready to tackle it definitively here and now. Yeah, I think it's fall. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a very complicated theory about how everybody associates plaid with Canada, and I'm like, if anybody can answer that, it's Sarah. I did not know that was a thing, but somehow
News
the
to me.
plaid means Canada, means reputation is coming in Toronto or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's just fall. It's the fall era.
Period.
So I know we are here to celebrate this monumental achievement, and I know we're all so excited for you and proud of you, and I am not diminishing that success with this next question, but what is next for you?
Well, next in the immediate future, as in the next hour, I can't wait to say hi to every single one of you, and thank you so much for being here. I just appreciate it so much. Over the next, few years, well, Tortured Poets got announced after this book went to print, so
We need a sequel.
I mean, like I said, she's not going to stop wearing clothes, so yeah, fingers crossed for a volume 2.
Love it.
Yeah. Now, I will say that first week of sales for a book, shameless plug, I'm so sorry. First week of sales for a book are integral to making bestseller lists, and Kansas City is the last physical stop for me to be on before first week of sales runs out. And I can't imagine, a better, more, enthusiastic and wonderful place to finish that off. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
If you haven't ordered it yet, you have 10 hours
literally have,
to order as many copies as possible to make sure
have-
Sarah hits the New York Times bestseller list.
We've got 11 hours, and it comes down to KC. So
So, think ahead to the holidays. How many people in your life are getting a copy of the book?
yeah,
Yeah.
Swift Miss, Merry Swift Miss.
Yeah,
everyone.
exactly.
Yeah,
So you want to do some audience questions?
would love to.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay. So the Taylor NFL relationship has overwhelmingly benefited the NFL. However, in KC, Chiefs fans set off fireworks when Taylor won her Grammy and watched the awards in record numbers. Is there other evidence that she has benefited from the Taylor NFL relationship?
I mean, I think that if her experience in KC has been anything like mine, she's benefited from a warm and wonderful and enthusiastic and passionate community who wants to take care of her and see her succeed. So that's my final answer, Alex.
We'll take it. I told you we weren't going to answer one of these. Well, I didn't feel like answering this question, but
What are you doing? You're going off script.
I'm going off script. It's blame it on the audience.
You promised me.
Travis is well known for being playful with his fashion. Do you think his carefree and joyful attitude towards personal style is influencing Taylor's latest looks? And if so, how have you seen that influence manifest itself?
Sparkle freckles for starters. I think is a great call out. I think there's a certain lightness and frivolity and warmth that I think she's been exuding over the last year, which, you know, draw a tangent from line A to line B, like point A to point B. I don't think it's hard to like decipher why. But when it comes to, you know, her fashion, I like to mostly interpret her style through the lens of like her projects, her identity, her sense of self, and what she's trying to communicate through the art that she puts out. Now, I feel like TS12 is not as far off as we all like might suspect. So, you know, TBD on what it is that she's going to say, but I think that I more excel at being able to pull together the puzzle pieces after the fact. And once we have it's like a locket, the other half of her story is going to be the music, and then I'll be able to analyze the fashion that comes with it and kind of piece together those things. And I feel like it'll make more sense once we have the other half of that story, if that there's a story there to tell. You know, she does love, you know, a label now, and I feel like Trav Killa is very into a label, so that's fun.
Yeah. Another process question. How do you find out so quickly when Taylor has been spotted on the street? This person, and I agree with them, we often first see paparazzi photos on your Instagram. So what system? Who has your number? Who calls you?
No one. It's just Twitter, man. X. Sorry. Yeah, it's just Twitter, or I'll have like friends text me. You know, once the group chat badge starts popping off, you know that something has happened. So there's no secret.
Do you have any like alerts set or anything?
No, just the group chat. And like, yeah, and I'll just check my like Twitter feed. And that's how once my phone starts overheating with, oh my God, girl, are you awake? That's how I know. So yeah.
What's a particularly wild memory of like where you were when you were like, now I have to like identify an outfit I'm in the middle of?
Quite literally last night. Literally last night. I landed in KC around 5 or 6. I had a virtual Q&A with like a book club at 8:30, and like at 8:15 she was spotted out in New York City, and I was like, I got time. So I like quickly dashed off, little Gucci corset, Dior bag, and then spoke to some book clubbers for half an hour, got some Joes, and then came back and found the coat. So there we are.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that was like a very recent moment. I've definitely had moments where when she attended the wedding at Electric Lady Studios for Karen Elson, I was driving my car back from the border to get my P.O. box. I started getting like notifications, and I pulled over to the side of the road, and I posted the Zimmerman dress from somebody's driveway because I had been looking at that collection like the night before. So I was like,
fresh.
Yeah, she was fresh. So like I was like, oh, I recognize that immediately. I was looking at that last night, and so I posted the Zimmerman dress from a driveway.
Amazing. We so appreciate your dedication. So speaking of Joe's, what else are you going, well actually we're going to manifest this. What are you going to do to celebrate being a best-selling author when it happens?
We'll find out next week, and I actually have a hometown show in Vancouver, Canada, so I have a signing next Thursday, and so hopefully at that time I will know for my home show, so that will be like a way of celebrating.
Was that planned?
No, like not even close. Just none of it was accidental, but this definitely was. Like it definitely was. It definitely was just serendipity and a happy circumstance, potentially. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it'll happen. If it doesn't, you're all in trouble. For our last question, somebody wants the rundown on what you're wearing today, Sarah Chapelle style.
Oh my gosh. I'm wearing a Reformation dress, La Rude heels that they're little bows on them, and there's a bow here, so I thought that coordinated nicely. These are Jenny Bird, and I actually got them because they kind of replicate the gold circle on the cover of the book. Majuri ring, and that's it. Yeah. Oh, the lip is Maybelline Superstay in Dancer.
Oh, I think that's what Alana Mar wears too.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent company.
Good company.
Oh
yeah.
my goodness.
Well, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. Heartland, thank you for inviting her here.
Thank you.
And then,
Thank you so much, Melody and Sarah. That was wonderful. Before we do the outro, I was wondering, lots of people in the audience have books. Do we want like a selfie photo moment? That'd be cute. I know, Lakin, you have a phone, right? I don't know if, do one of you, I can take it, but just hold up your books. Let me see if I can figure this out.
Okay, we're gonna do a video first. So we're gonna do a woo. When I say woo, and then we'll do a photo. Okay. I'm in Kansas City. Woo! What? Okay, and then we'll do you want to get up? Sure. Yeah. Oh, this is awkward. Anna?
my arms are longer.
I have little dinosaur T-Rex arms.
I can also, here.
A photo.
Okay, we're going to do a photo.
Yeah.
So everybody hold your books up again.
We're holding,
Wait,
oh
we're
God.
Gonna do,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, 0.5. Yeah.
that's how the kids do it.
Yeah, I see, I understand. Cheese. Okay. Amazing.
Amazing.
Yay! Thank you.